I'm Barbara Searles from the Marshall County Public Library in connection with the State Oral History Program. I'm speaking today with Mr. Elmer Brien, who will tell us something about the early schools in Marshall County. Mr. Brien, you've traced your genealogy back to Ireland in connection with the early schools in this county. Tell us about your work in this area.
I've been a carpenter for 55 years and retired in 1965. I've also begun doing service work for veterans in 1920, and this is my 57th year helping veterans that are disabled file claims, also the widows and their orphans. I'm also interested in history and have been for many years. In fact, some of the information that I'm to record here now in oral history is information that I've had since 1920. Now, I would like to record this oral history as to this above named school, which was Arkadelphia, and its location. It was established by John Brien and his wife, setting aside 1/4 acre of land south of his house out of a 640-acre tract that he owned 1 mile south of Alma on the old Benton and Paducah Road, which is now 68 Federal Highway. There was no deed made to this 1/4 acre, as we'll show later. That he sold this land to J.K. Wilson in 1857, and in the deed he reserved the title to this 1/4 acre, and to date that title is retained in the name of John Brien. On this 1/4 acre, a log building was erected with 1 door, 2 wooden hinge shutters that could be opened. This school was established in the latter part of the 30s or as late as 40, and a teacher was hired, and I do not know any teacher that taught there. This building was moved to the Stall Farm in 1850 and was renamed the Stall School as a part of the notes that I secured from the Stall family around 1920, and I still have them. Now, I would like to go back and show the genealogy of the Briens, and then show their educational background, their relation to this need for a school, and the desire of the Briens to secure an education that they might make a bigger and a better contribution to the society of which they were a part. We have a crest or a coat of arms, and there exists today only one for each 3,700 families. And the Brien clan were from County Cork near Dublin, Ireland, and they owned a castle and much land and were governed by clan rule. Now, we want to show a part of the clan rules. At the death of the head of the clan, the eldest child then became head of the clan. They never divided their holdings, and if able financially, any surrounding land for sale was added to their holdings. The death of the head of the clan, all children under legal age became indentured to the new head of the clan, and they were given food, clothing, and medical care, and some of the clan was selected to teach children to read and write. A clan rule: if an indentured child married, he could remain a part of the clan and be given a part of the income, or be given a dowry from the clan's estate, or could seek a home elsewhere with this dowry. If a member became of legal age, he could seek a home elsewhere, or he could be given a dowry and released from their indenture. And at becoming legal age, he could purchase a release for a price, and before becoming legal age, he could purchase a release for a price, and could even seek to be indentured to someone else. Now we come to James and John Brien, who were indentured to the Brien clan. They sought passage on a ship at the end of their indenture to come to America, and were given their dowry, and that they might pay for their passage to America. These 2 immigrants, James and John Brien, landed at Plymouth Rock and traveled south. James settled in Virginia, and I do not know who or when he married. John settled in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and married a Miss Clark, and I do not know the date or her given name. The second generation, now the first child was named James Sr., and after his immigrant uncle James in Virginia, and he was born in 1760. He married Ann Lytle, who was born July the 4th, 1762, at Winston-Salem. and they were married there May the 11th, 1779. To this union there was 13 born. They had 6 children. Jane died there, and the 7th child was born June the 25th, 1792. And he was named after his father and called James Jr. At the age of 2, his father James Sr. left Winston-Salem seeking a new home. With 1 child buried there in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, he loaded 6 children in an ox wagon with his wife Ann Lytle Brien as the driver. He rode a horse and blazed a trail for her to follow. He would mark campsites and river crossings, and when he would return to the campsite, he would also secure game for food. In the wagon he had a sack of seed corn. Logan County, Kentucky, having been established in 1792, 2 years before this trip, he made more than 500 miles. He left July the 15th in 1794 and arrived the last week of September. The last days on the road, they existed on parched corn from the seed sack. And on October the 2nd, 1894, Archie was born in Logan County, Kentucky, followed by others, 13 in all. Now, while this family lived in Logan County, James Sr.'s daughter, Sarah, as was clan custom, became the teacher, and using the Bible of John Brien, which showed the births, but instead of married to, stated that they consorted with, and James Brien Sr. brought this Bible over Cumberland Gap in 1794. And today, W.J. Brien's oldest son, J.P., has this same Bible. It was her only textbook. She taught Dr. Brien, and he later became the doctor, and he was the brother of John, also James Jr. Dr. Brien built a house where George Little lives, and it burned in 1961, and it was built in 1820. After Jackson's purchase, which James Brien Jr. was an aide to Andrew Jackson when purchased. Now, with this educational background, John Brien had 3 daughters. He established Arkadelphia so that they could better prepare to make a greater contribution to our society. Dr. Samuel Graham married the oldest daughter and lived at Bryansburg. She went to school with her sisters at Arkadelphia, and she requested due to her love for this school and its yard that her father had set aside that she be buried on the schoolyard, and she was. Then others of John Brien's family, Dr. Graham, Dr. Brien, and their wives, James Brien and other Briens. For this reason, he mentioned in the deed that this 1/4 acre was exempted from the deed, and the title to this remains in John Brien's name, and that is its status at this date. Now, I would like to make these comments as to the first, second, and the following generations of the Brien immigrant, John Brien, as he was my great-great-great-grandfather, and from his Bible, as the textbook, the clan rule as to the teaching the family to read and write, the first generation American-born, James Sr., and Sarah taught his family, and one James Jr., he was elected to the legislature in 1842 and created Marshall County June 6, 1842. He was one of the second generation of American-born. John, his brother, was born in Logan County in 1896, and he gave this land for the school. Now, I would like to state that James Brien Jr. was elected to the legislature 13 times. He moved to Logan County at age 2. Then in 1812 he enlisted and served 6 years under Andrew Jackson in Captain William Rice's company of Mounted Volunteer Cavalry. He was commanded by Lieutenant Colonel James Allen. While in service, he married Ruth Hufstadler on February 6, 1817 in Logan County, Kentucky. Their first son, James Crittenden, was born there in 1817 and died April the 19th, 1838 in now Marshall County. He moved to Marshall County in 1820, which was then Callaway County. Now, in the early part of October, before being discharged, he was told by Andrew Jackson, who the president had appointed with the Kentucky governor Isaac Shelby, to go to Holly Springs, Mississippi, that the chief of the Chickasaw Indians wanted to negotiate the sale of land lying between the Tennessee and the Mississippi rivers and from the Ohio River south to the Mississippi line. He went with Jackson, and the purchase was made on October the 18th, 1818, and on his return home, he proceeded to the Jackson's purchase and swam his horse into Marshall County at the mouth of Jonathan Creek, then Callaway County, in 1818. Marshall County has been a part of 2 states and 8 counties, and I would like to show a part of the relationship to me of Dr. Samuel Graham. He was buried on this 1/4 acre schoolyard. He was born in 1823. He served 2 years in some doctor's office and studied medicine, passed an examination by a medical board who granted a license to practice in the state. He lived at the village named for James Brien, Bryansburg, and did practice there for years, and in his practice he delivered 3 singles and 3 sets of twins for Lynn Boyd Brien, the first set of twins being a boy and a girl. They named the boy Samuel Graham Brien after the doctor and the girl Mattie after his wife. They were born January the 4th, 1868, and this was my father. He could neither read or write. He had 5 children who he did his best he could to educate. I have a 10th grade, and part of the Brien boys graduated from high school. These generations of Bryans have been stalwart, honest, and industrious, and some really talented, all religious and good citizens. I have tried to show that they tried to meet the need that they felt for being able to read and write. They laid the cornerstone for an educational system in a new area that had none, and to try to meet their needs and to help establish for future generations. Now I thank God for being of this immigrant stock, and from this I see their contributions to society by John Brien's land to establish the first Arkadelphia school. I also thank God for what I can see now, North, South, Benton Junior, and the Central High, and all the grade schools here. And I look to Murray College and Paducah Junior, then to our state university with all their talented teachers, some with many degrees. Then we know that we can truthfully say, through the immigrant stock came this great and talented society from which each passing generation has made their contribution to this, the greatest nation. Now, in regard to Dr. Graham, I met him in 1908 and again in 1909, and he was buried on this plot in 1911. In closing, I have never seen this of record, and I wish to leave this record for the future generations.
Thank you, Mr. Brien. I really have enjoyed this commentary that you have prepared, and I feel like that the future people that will use this tape may benefit from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.